Hey everybody, welcome back to Video. So tearing out a fun and random episode for you guys this evening because Dead of the Brain has been translated into English, and this is actually a little embarrassing. I captured the footage for this the week it came out and then totally forgot to actually finish the video. I was doing some file cleanup, found this, and realized there was no way I couldn't talk about one of my favorite visual novels of all time, even if it's well past its release date. Before I get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But this was done by Dave Shadoff, and if you don't know his name, it might be familiar from the FPGA territory on MiSTer. But apparently he's also a big Dead of the Brain fan because he translated the PC Engine version into full English, and I will say this is one of the best translations I have ever read. It is both conversational and informative of the plot, while also not imparting too much of its own flavor to it. And if you're not familiar with Dead of the Brain, it is a series. There's 2 games, and right now just the first game has been translated, so Dead of the Brain 2 still remains a mystery to everyone who can't speak or read Japanese. But honestly, I saw a photo of this game years ago and I was just intrigued by the cover art. I looked a little bit more of it up and I knew that I wanted to have it in my collection. And even though it wasn't Japanese, I still kind of thumbed through the game with Google Translate and had a good time. But now that we have a full English translation, it's even better because for the first time ever, I would 100% understand the plot. And what I mean, I love this game. I genuinely do. I have the entire Nightmare collection, including the PC Engine version. And interestingly enough, this was the last officially released game for the PC Engine. It is still easy to find, but you do need to bring your wallet. Thankfully, I bought this thing well over a decade ago and not many people actually knew about it. And be careful, there are some bootlegs out there. You need to read the data off the inside of the CD from the back. But honestly, this has been one of the translations I've been waiting for longer than any other translation in gaming, and that's just because I've always loved these Japanese visual novels, especially the ones that are set in the horror realm. Dead of the Brain, Dead of the Brain 2, Marine Filth are all games that have this graphical style that I just absolutely am intrigued by and drawn to, and now that we have this in English, it is just that much better. And as you see the text scroll by and get a little bit of the story, I do think that the translation on this is a straight 10 out of 10. That's just not because the maker of it works on the MiSTer FPGA project, which you know I do videos on. I just think that all of the languages come over so well and been so conversational. It really does impart just enough story on you to understand the characters without completely changing it from its Japanese source text. And if you're not familiar with visual novel games, especially out of Japan, they are an entire vibe. I have done some videos on these in the past, the Just Here for the Vibe series, where I talk about the graphical stylings, even though I can't understand the game. And you'll see here, Doc has injected Kitty with that reanimation serum. This is basically Night of the Living Dead. It kind of just pivoted over to a horror game. There's going to be some nods to that series in the game as well. Now this is the PC Engine version, and it is a slight graphical downgrade from the PC-98 or MSX2 versions, but it is a fun release and it works perfectly on MiSTer FPGA like I am playing it here now today. And I just love these horror stories. It is the type of game where you think, am I really going to be into this? But then you get a little bit of the story and then you start getting more engrossed in it. You'll be aware that there is a little bit of adult subject matter in Dead of the Brain, but it's been tamed down a little bit from the PC-98 version, which I will probably do a dedicated video on sometime in the future. But it's just great to get another PC Engine translation, and this is just such an intriguing game. It basically takes movies, throws in a little bit of erotica, gives you enough story about reanimating of the dead that you just get strung along with the story. You want to see what happens next, you want to search the next area, you want to see the next bit of zombie-style gore coming towards you. Because Doc here has that reanimation serum, and the inciting incident is going to be that this police officer comes in and investigates, and Doc's cat rips out his jugular vein and he dies on the floor. Doc is going to make a very bad mistake right here, and it's basically going to set off the entire events of Dead of the Brain. But there's a lot of story that comes later that kind of changes things up, and I'm really not trying to spoil this for you whatsoever, because if you've never played it before or you weren't aware that this was translated, I really don't want to give away too many story beats, because the story here is excellent and the translation really drives it forward. Obviously, there's not a lot of gameplay in a game like this. It is a point-and-click adventure game with light puzzles and some quick-time events in which you need to shoot zombies, but for the most part, this is a visual novel. You read the story, you look at the artwork, and you interact with the world around it, and I just absolutely love that. Yes, this is a love it or hate it genre, but for me, it's a love it, especially when it's in the horror or sci-fi realm. And I will say, because this is the PC Engine version, it's got an excellent Redbook audio soundtrack, so go ahead and listen to the music just for like 30 seconds, and I'll come back and tell you a lot more about the game and the translation. So now you know how things get started in Dead of the Brain, or at least how they seem to, because like I said earlier, this story is way more complex than you understand at the beginning. It's going to turn back on itself. There's a lot of different twists and turns that are even going to keep you guessing till the end what exactly is happening in the world of Dead of the Brain. And I love this animation here of this severed hand just using itself to basically crawl towards you, the player. This game just has so many vibes, it's so intriguing, and if you've never played a visual novel, it's a very good place to start, because inside of the horror element, it is just fun compared to some of the deeper sci-fi. And again, this is just a series I've always loved, and I have all of the games on my shelf in some form or another. And as we get further into the game here, you're going to be introduced to other characters, and you're going to wonder what they're doing and what their motivations are. And you have the menu at the left of the screen. You have look, talk, get, move, use, and go. And those are going to be your primary means of communicating and moving through the game world. And you're going to be exploring a lot of different places, talking to a lot of different people, and trying to understand and unravel the puzzle around you. And if you've never played a visual novel game before, do be aware that sometimes you need to talk to characters more than once until they repeat the same lines, so you know you've seen everything in a scene before you can move on. This is not like a traditional point-and-click adventure where you can navigate anywhere. You have to basically fulfill the certain goals in a screen before you can move on to the next one. And you'll see here that zombie has popped through the window, and Doc is going to have to shoot him down dead because the zombie outbreak is now in full effect. And as our characters run into the city, you're going to see that they are absolutely everywhere. Things have gone very badly, and this is when the game starts getting really good. Hang with it for the first 10 minutes or so. You're going to get an info dump as far as text is going, but once you get through to that and you get into the police station, this game becomes absolutely brutal in all of the best ways possible, because even though the PC Engine does have downgraded graphics, you will see here that this game pulls no punches as far as the zombie violence is concerned. And I absolutely love it for that. This game does not fool around. It is a gory, violent zombie celebration, and that's the type of thing that I love. And you have these downgraded PC-98 style graphics as well as the dithering on the screen, and it just has such a look and a feel that is wholly unique yet still graphic and fun at the same time. And now we have that in English with a proper translation, because the last time that we talked about this game, it was a machine translation and definitely mangled a lot of things that was done by a different developer. But honestly, this is just the type of game that I love, and I am not a big visual novel fan. For the most part, as far as Japanese visual novels are concerned, these are kind of the only ones I play. There's just something about Dead of the Brain that's always drawn me towards it, something about the zombie storyline, the graphic violence in that pixel art, the dithering. It really is something that just basically kind of grabbed hold of me, and I always wanted to be able to play the game while understanding fully what the story was, and having the story translated in that conversational English. And that is what we're getting here today. And you can see as we navigate around the world, this just makes you want to find out what's going to happen next. It wants you to see the next scene. You get intrigued as to what may be around the next corner, and it just drives your gameplay forward. And that's the best thing a game can do. And because the translation is so effective, the story also drives you forward. There's so many little nods and touches in this translation, as well as the story of Dead of the Brain from the original developer's Fairy Tale, that you just get hooked in and you need to know what happens next. And the best part is, whether you software emulate this, use original hardware, or use MiSTer FPGA, it is very easy to play this translation. I will leave a link to it in the description below. The only mistake you can make is not playing Dead of the Brain in the first place, because it is one of those special experiences. It's of a time and place where if you grew up with this sort of artwork or these sort of games, you probably love it. And if you didn't, you might not be too sure about what it's actually trying to do. But just take it from me, if you believe anything I say on this channel, give Dead of the Brain a shot. It's very interesting. It makes you want to know what's going to happen next. It's got some amazing artwork and some fun zombie violence. And I'm not going to show you what's around the corner because this is when the game starts getting extremely good. But Dave Shadoff did an amazing job translating this game over to the PC Engine. It works perfectly, and it's an excellent translation that I'm so happy to have, because for the first time in basically forever, I can play Dead of the Brain in English, and I hope one day to see a Dead of the Brain too. Be sure that if you ever played this game, leave me a comment down below, but we are done. We're going to go hunt some zombies, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.